My name is Sandy Trevino. My real name is Santos Trevino. My maiden name is Rodriguez. I'm Rebecca and Victor Rodriguez's daughter. We came to Lenawee County back in 1939, and actually we were at Britain, Michigan, and as migrants we came field work. My parents did field work, and we didn't have a vehicle to get here, so we came with crew leader who had a big state truck, and he brought in a lot of people in that truck, very crowded, but and I don't remember how many days they took, but I know back then the roads weren't as great, so it was very hard to be in that truck for 2 or 3 days coming from Texas. These were all people from Texas, and we ended up in Britain, Michigan at a farm, supposedly to do farm work. My parents had a nice home in Cotulla, Texas, and actually you would have said they didn't have a need to come and live under the conditions that we lived, but my father was a typical cowboy in Texas, and he wanted a better life and make more money for his family. At that time it was my sister and I, and when we landed in Britain, we had the accommodation was almost to say terrible, because we were in a barn, and a wall divided us between the cows and the pigs, and they were on one side and we were on the other side. So it was, according to my parents, the smell wasn't good, but we lived there until they found some kind of a barn, a house, and in that house moved about 4 or 5 families, and the walls between the families were sheets that they would put up in the wall and the ceiling down to divide one family from the other. And my parents would go to work out in the fields, and the little kids, I was only 2 years old then, the kids would stay at the house with an older lady who was I guess my aunt by marriage or something. So she would stay home with all the little kids, and there was about 5 or 6 of us there. And we didn't have no money. Back then there was no public assistance per se, so whatever my parents could earn, that's what we had, and if they had not much work that week, we didn't have much money, no car or nothing. So, but anyway, my parents survived that season, and in the winter months, like in November, they would go back to Texas. The crew leader would take them back to Texas, and they would come back again the following spring. So my father decided he wasn't going to travel by that truck again, because it was very inhumane that we were traveling in those trucks, So he got himself a little car in Cotulla, and so he brought his family in the car. It took us days to get here, but it was one of those little, I call them Model Ts, but it was just one of those cars that existed back then. And we still laugh about it sometimes, because he put a little stand in the back of the car and put some chickens in there, so he could get some meat and eggs. And so we survived on those chickens and eggs until we got there. Then those chickens provided us with food for a while. And so my dad was happy to have a little car at the farm. So we stayed there for a couple of years, and I can remember that 2 situations when my parents were working out with the rest of the crew. It started, the sky was setting, and it was really red. The sunset was real red. And my sister, being one of the little older kids, looked at the sky and she says, "The sky is burning." So she got all of us young kids, scared. So we started to run down this dirt road looking for my parents, and we found them. And they said, "What are you kids doing here?" And they said, "The sky is burning." But he says, "No, the sky is not burning, it's just the sun setting." So we all were scolded and sent back to the farm, to the farmhouse. But anyway, we had really, we kids didn't know any better, so we were happy just playing with each other there. And I can remember the one time we ran out of milk, and my aunt gave us cornflakes with coffee because there was no milk. So we didn't like the coffee with the cornflakes, but we ate it because we were hungry. So It was just situations that happened every day with something else happening. But anyway, we kept going back and forth to Texas. In 1940, I think it was 42 or late 42, my parents decided to move to Adrian and start looking for work in factories. And Mom and Dad both got a job, you know, in the factory, Bone Aluminum, which is no longer even existing, you know, there. But it was up on Maumee Street. And they used to walk from the house to the factory every night because, again, they didn't have a car to get back and forth. And eventually they were able to get another car. And we stayed there. My brother was born in 1944 here in Adrian. So Mom and Dad worked real hard to save their money. And I can remember my dad used to say, I have to save my money to buy a house. And he was determined to buy his own house. And we rented in different places. And in 1948, he bought his first house. So he was real happy about that. But we kids, you know, we have pictures of us kids being in the fields, in the snow, in the cold. I have a picture of my dad and my sister and I standing in front of the Britton High School, Britton School, the old school. I don't know whether it's still there or not, but we have a lot of pictures of us being, you know, out dealing with the cold and the snow and all that. But anyway, after we came to Adrian, my dad started, you know, working in the factories, and Mom did too. They went to work for Garrity, which is a factory, again, that doesn't exist anymore, but they were with Garrity's from the day it opened until the day they closed. And he put my sister and I in a Catholic school, St. Mary's. And my brother still was too little to go to school, but when he got old enough to go to school, he also went to Catholic Central, or St. Mary's, and then Catholic Central. But I can remember, you know, hard times in Britain. You know.
Does your family have any special sayings or expressions?
Well, my dad had second grade education, although my mother had more because she was wanting to go to Texas, but was orphaned, so she went to Mexico to live with her aunt. So she was able to finish her school there, but my dad only had about second grade education, so he was not, I mean, he could read some, but he always was a hard worker. And he always used to say to us kids that we had to learn how to save money. Save money, because you never know when you're gonna need money. And he used to say, remember that anybody can work, anybody, you know, Jesus. He used to say, you can put a donkey in the field and let him work, and he'll work hard and he'll earn money for you. But it's only somebody that's smart will know how to save that money. So he'd say, save that money. Doesn't matter whether you work hard, you have to learn how to save money. So when kids used to save money all the time.
How are holidays traditionally celebrated in your family, or how were they celebrated?
Well, when I was younger, of course, we used to always get together for Christmas or Easter, you know, the special days. I always had like tamales for Christmas, and I think that's a Spanish tradition from every family. We used to have Mexican rice and beans and tamales and so forth. And as the older generation is going, I don't know, I think it's sort of kind of disappearing a little bit, but we still have a little bit of it at my house. And of course now I have 5 children, or we have 5 children, and they're all grown up, and we do a lot of just regular cooking. But every once in a while, my youngest daughter will say, let's have a Mexican dinner, Mexican food. Okay, we'll have Mexican food for Christmas. So we still go back to celebrating with Mexican food. So, but we don't do that every single year because sometimes we just fall back into the any other kind of foods, certainly like roasts and potatoes and all that stuff. But the Mexican food for us always has been tamales and rice. We still eat a lot of rice.
Did you have any like family traditional songs?
No, my dad was a person that loved to dance. He was a dancer. used to polka, and everybody in England knows it. He used to polka a lot and dance a lot. So he taught us kids to dance. My sister and I were always dancing with him. But as far as singing, my dad never was one that sings. But my mom used to always like to listen to her traditional music of a Catholic nature, church music, and all this Spanish. In fact, we still have a lot of that music. We still listen to it. A lot of Mexican church music, Our Lady of Guadalupe, and of course you won't know those, but we still have this music, Mexican music. And we love to go to Mexican dances because we love Mexican music.
So you talked about your photos a little bit. Do you have any other photos or heirlooms that have been passed down to you that you kind of treasure, and what do they mean to you?
Well, the photos mean a lot because that brings his memories back. So I keep those, and my kid says, "Don't get rid of the photos." I said, "I made copies. I'm going to give them the copies. I'm going to keep my originals." So we do have, our pictures. Everything else is just kind of material stuff, so it's not important to us.
You particularly, what kind of occupations have you had throughout your life?
Well, graduated from Catholic Central, went to Siena Heights. No, I didn't graduate. I'm very close to it, but I didn't graduate. Because I got married and started raising a family, and I worked at commercial bank for a while right after high school. And I'm not sure, just general, books and so forth. After that, I went to beauty school and worked for a couple of ladies in the beauty supply, and then I opened my own business. So I had a beauty supply house, a beauty salon for about 12 or 14 years, and my home and my beauty salon were together, so I could go from the beauty shop to the house. And in the meantime, by that time I had 4 children, so I was able to keep and I had my children. And I had a babysitter that lived with me, so she helped me a lot, as far as with the kids, Then I had my last one, which I had 4 girls, and then my last one was a boy. So we stayed there in the house until he was 2.5, and I decided I needed to do something other than a beauty salon, work. I had 6 girls working for me at the shop, and did good money, but I quickly realized I had to pay for my own health insurance, and I didn't have a pension unless I provided myself with one. So I decided to do something that I could have a future as far as health insurance and a pension, when I retired. So a friend of mine who used to come to the beauty shop said to me, "Go try to see if you can get in with the state," And I had gone to college, so I did have some, background. And so I took a civil service test, and I passed, and I got hired by the state to work at the Department of Social Services. So I became a social worker, and I worked there for almost 23 years, when I retired. So yes, I like that work a lot. I like working for beauty salon, but I like my social work, like being a caseworker, and I missed it.